Now we have a lawyer and political commentator, Curtis Adigba, joining us in the studio right now. Curtis, good morning.
Thanks for having me.
It's nice to have you join us. Yeah. Now, the timetable released by INEC, one of the most prominent thing a lot of people have started commenting is having the presidential election first before the governorship election. We saw in 2015 where a lot of people said that having the presidential election seemed to sway the entire, the remaining election towards a certain direction.
Well, you know, every issue has got two sides. The pancake, no matter how flat, has got two sides. There is also the argument that if you hold the other elections before the presidential election, and then voters will look at the swing and just follow with the wave. So it's neither here nor there. I mean, any election, as far as I'm concerned, if it is fair, free, and credible, we shouldn't talk about how it is conducted in terms of which comes first or which is heard later. I mean, that's, for me, is a non-issue as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so are you impressed that INEC is releasing timetable quite early, like before? Would you say that it's going to ensure transparency and enough time to prepare?
Yeah, I agree with them. Look, let me tell you, it's just that we've just decided in this part of the world not to learn how to do things properly. In the United States, for instance, you don't even need to release timetable. The presidential election is held the second Tuesday in November. You know that. So it's not a matter of somebody will announce, you know, in a ceremony and say, look, we are holding elections so day. What is difficult about saying this is when we're going to hold elections? Bring some consistency and clarity into the process.
So everyone knows when that date comes, that is how we just prepare. It's left for the political parties to do their thing.
Midterm election 2018, we already know when it's going to hold. And we're just in January. And we're talking about this for November in the United States. So these are not things that are too difficult. But you know, politicking in our own part of the world is a different kettle of fish. If people try to make issues out of non-issues, just to politicize, you know, these issues, and then leave the issue, the crucial issues of governance and the welfare of the people. Look, whether you like it or not, INEC, there's a governing law, which is the Electoral Act and the Constitution. What INEC has done agrees with the specific provisions of this law. And so when people come out and try to politicize this issue, sometimes I don't understand, you know, the motive.
All right. INEC has registered 22 new political parties. Some of them sound like, the names sound like churches, others are a full sentence. But however, that's the right of the people. Now we have 68 political parties in Nigeria. One would say, in fact, in the last political parties we had, some of them didn't even field candidates, some of them have never fielded candidates. Why have more political parties?
Let me come back to you and ask you a simple question. Beyond the APC, PDP, and maybe Labour Party, do you know any other political party that contested the 2015 election?
At least ABGA is there.
ABGA is there. Yeah, you know, see, this is just something that is unique to us as a people. I also want to be there. I also want to be heard. Now, the Constitution provides clearly, I mean, you have the right to associate and come together. But then you see, we have the tendency to take things outside the box all the time, even if it serves no purpose. Basically, what people do here is, you know, you register these political parties, put the certificate in the box, and wait for politicians to come negotiate and buy slots. If they cannot get slots within their preferred political party, just to run for election. That's not what we need. What we need are political parties that are based on ideology, clear-cut ideology, with direction about where they want to take this country. And that's what they should be selling to the people. Now, do we need 68 political parties? I don't think so. But then, what do INEC do? Because people will go to court and say, under the Constitution, we have the right to form political parties. That has been guaranteed. In fact, there's a court judgment to that effect, that INEC cannot, even when they are not active, that INEC cannot prescribe them. So I will be surprised if we have seen the end of this, because like the chairman of INEC said yesterday, there's still pending applications for more political parties. Then when you look at the manifestos of the political party, you know, the difference is like 6 and half a dozen. Everybody wants to do the same thing. I saw people rejoicing when they got their certificates yesterday, but that's probably the last you are going to hear.
Do they have the spread? Do they have offices across the country? I
don't know, but of course INEC must have done that verification. But here's the point. There is this thinking in our country that the problem of Nigeria has got to do with age. And so when you have young people come together to form a political party, we have a solution. No. Ask yourself, look at the current government. Look at our current environment. Majority of the governors are people you describe as young people. There's even a governor that is 42 years old. Look at the House of Representatives. Look at the Senate. So the issue is not age. The issue is character. So you can have old people who will do well. You can also have young people who will do well. So the mere fact that some young people came together to set up a political party is not an indication that things are about to change until we change our character and how we perceive issues and see our country. The ultimate goal for the country, we're not going to make any serious progress. Yet
again, the statement of former President Olusegun Obasanjo keeps reverberating that what Nigeria needs is not restructuring. What it needs is a restructuring of mentality, change of mentality. It is when you change yourself that the country will ultimately change.
It's not mutually exclusive as far as I'm concerned. We need both. Because even if you change the structure, the physical structure, you don't change the mindset. You're not going to go anywhere.
We're going to have the same
challenge. You're still going to have the same issue. Let me tell you, why is it difficult for people to quit? Throw in the towel and say, look, no, it's okay, I've had enough. You have somebody appointed to a position, there's a controversy that we completely overshadow the workings of the government. You hear them say in other parts of the world, I don't want to become the issue. So I'm stepping aside, the government can move on.
Accuse themselves.
Why is it impossible for people to do it in this part of the world? Hang on, go to churches, recruit people from their communities who wear uniform and protest even when they don't know what they're protesting about.
Not to derail from the topic we are talking about anyway, because that is something that every Nigerian has opinion really. What should INEC be looking at now, because it has ample time to plan? Nigerians in the diaspora will start talking that they have the right to vote, they are citizens of the country, and they, so which should be tackled? Which milestone do you think INEC should surpass this year?
Look, we started with some reforms. And if you look at some of the reforms that we have done in this country, we're ahead of so many other countries in the world. The PVC, the verification and all that. This is an ongoing process. Sometimes ago, the Supreme Court even struck down part of this. And by the amendment done now by the Senate, that has been restored. So let's learn to walk before we start running. We are having problems with the rudimentary system of trying to get people's votes to count. And people are talking about people abroad voting. Are they even registered to vote? It's not just about somebody outside the country sending you a card and
there was a system in place when the bank, the CBN said that all accounts owners in banks should get BVN.
Yeah, but they came back. Most of them came back to register for BVN or went to centers abroad. Yeah, that could happen. What I'm saying is, I'm saying that, look, this is a gradual process. We cannot throw all the fruit at once into the basket.
Yeah, we agree certainly it can't come up or pop up overnight.
Yes.
But we all know that our general election is every 4 years. In between the 4 years, some by-elections take place, some state government elections take place, and experiments are carried out. Is it not more of policy of saying, okay, INEC, we want to experiment this time? For instance, in the last number election where you have to, you accredit and then you vote alongside, it was just an issue of, is a policy, let's experiment it and move on, isn't it?
I agree with you.
Okay.
And I've always said, personnel is policy. The quality of your policy depends on the quality of your personnel. And that's basically people who are willing to experiment, take the risk, and try so many things. Look, change is not change if it does not keep moving. Once change becomes permanent, it should change its name from change. because it's no longer change. So you see that it's supposed to be a continuous evolution. Try something new and see how it works, and it turns out. And that's where we have problem. And I can explain that to you. The reason is that, look, we just throw in people, either because they have some degrees or they are prominent in the society. We're not looking at the specific skill set. Can he deliver? How soon can he deliver? And what can he do? You understand? But I agree with you. This should be a constant, process. We should be changing things around, looking at what can we do to improve the system. Look, in the United States, for instance, the state of Oregon, nobody goes to the polling booth to vote. You mail in your vote.
Kenya uses computerized system to vote.
Yes, but you saw the problem it had. The Supreme Court struck down the first election on the ground that it was hacked, and votes were physically
irregularities.
These things all have their problems. But I do agree that Nigerians abroad can vote. It's a gradual process, and we're getting there.
All right, talking about funds, the INEC is mandated by law to monitor funds from political parties. He has said that the president cannot spend more than 1 billion naira for elections. The governors cannot spend more than 200 million. And then the Senate 40 million. I wonder how applicable or practicable that standard is.
Well, you see, the problem is implementation. How do you monitor what happens?
Yes.
Even in the most developed democracies, they have this problem. In the United States, for instance, because our system is like theirs, structured after theirs. Here they say, oh, no individual can contribute more than 1 million to a campaign.
1 million, yeah.
And no corporate organization cannot weigh in campaign. But the case of Citizens United, in the United States, took care of that, where the Supreme Court ruled that corporate organizations like individuals have a right to associate and express themselves. And that's why you have super PACs. The super PACs can spend money on behalf of a political party or candidate, but never to work in collusion. Okay. In other words, the party wouldn't know what the super PAC is doing on their behalf. And that's the biggest problem in the US system today. You hear people say, oh, we need to cancel that. Now, coming home, how do you monitor the situation? Because here, the parties are not required, like the parties in the United States or the candidates are required to periodically submit records of their funding. Who is giving you money and how are you spending that money? We don't have that here. So how do you forestall a money bag in Lagos, bringing 2 billion to weigh into the political process on behalf of a candidate who lives in Abuja? And then you say the candidate. How does even the candidate himself raise the 1 billion?
Some do fundraiser.
Yes, they do fundraising, but so
last election.
Then they said, oh, you can't go more than 1 million. Is it for primaries or the main election? That's where we have problem.
No clarity.
Unlike in the United States, where you have, you cannot give more than $2,700 for primaries and $2,700 for the general election. So you're looking at $5,400 for all combined, and you cannot exceed that except you go through a super PAC. So here are the problems. You see, it's not just the law. The law exists. How can INEC monitor that these laws are obeyed and implemented? That's the issue.
That's a big challenge.
Indeed. And then another issue is the PVC, really. Some Nigerians have PVC, but because they relocated maybe after 4 years of staying in a place, they've not been able to vote and have been disenfranchised. And if you look through the process of applying for relocation approval, it's quite cumbersome. Really, don't you think that there is need for INEC to prune it down to make it easier? After all, Nigerians are citizens of this country. Do you even need to apply to say that INEC, I am no longer living here, I have relocated here, so give me the right to vote?
I agree with you. But if you understand how our system is built and structured, it does look to me like the more sufferings you go through to get things done, the better it is for those who set up the system. Take for instance, go and ask for international passport in any of our immigration offices. See what you go through.
True.
The license, driver's license, see what you go through. Simple things. In some parts of the world, they mail to you your passport at home. You can apply online and they mail it back to you. Same thing for driver's license, you just go do the test and all that. Here, we make everything so difficult. Simple. I live in Lagos. I'm moving to Benue State. Why don't I just walk into the office of INEC in Benue, surrender what I have before? I was in Lagos, now I'm here. They give you a form you fill.
Just
and
to
they process
update your
it.
information.
Just start. Simple. And on the system, they move my location from Lagos to Benue, the particular location where I am. But I mean, these things are like rocket science when it comes to implementation, how we do things in this part of the world.
All right. Well, time is not on our side now. We have to leave you here now. Curtis Adigba, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
It's a
you very
pleasure.
much.
Yes.
Right.